You're watching Life Report. Pro-life talk. Real-world answers. Life Report trains people to more effectively defend their pro-life beliefs while honestly examining the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. We're the show other pro-lifers may have warned you about. This is Life Report.
Welcome to Life Report. I am your host, Josh Brom. Once again, we have our regulars, Liz Goddard. Andrew Nemi is here. We have a very good show lined up. I've been doing research on this show that we're doing today all day. I've been on the phone with so many people.
Way to procrastinate, Josh.
I know, right? Actually, I'm better than usual because usually I only work out what we're going to talk about that day. I knew we were going to talk about this 3-4 days ago, so I'm actually doing
still waited till
pretty
today?
good.
Is that what you're saying?
Josh,
I did. Well, see, here's the thing. I was going to try to get a guest to come on who was like an expert on this, and then that didn't really work out. So
In a
then
future episode,
great
the
future
guest.
episode, we're going to be awesome, and it's going to be way figured out ahead of time, and it's going to be amazing.
I am losing sleep because of you and your procrastination habits.
It's been a really good day, though. I've talked to all these people. I now feel like I really almost get a really good handle on this story. Here's what's happening.
Way to instill confidence.
Let me ask you this. Imagine you're pro-choice.
Okay.
Okay. If you're pro-choice, would you consider it important that your state health department track abortion statistics and receive reports of abortion complications or injuries?
Well, yeah. I mean, if abortion is going to be safe, legal, and rare, then we need to make sure that it's safe. So it should be tracked.
Why would tracking the stats and the complications help do that?
I would think almost from a different, kind of a different avenue for that is because it is such a controversial issue, and because it is supported by so many government entities and all these different things, that you want to have accurate facts. You don't want to be doing things under the table, anything that you don't want to cause any loopholes for the pro-lifers to be able to find opportunity to be able to
jump on you.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want them to be able to say, there's 1 million abortions happening right here in Illinois or whatever.
Right, and aren't there, isn't every medical procedure tracked and statistics are taken and we know how risky different procedures are and what happens in complications?
That's the way it's supposed to be. Certainly.
You have evidence to prove otherwise?
At least we have evidence to suggest otherwise in Illinois. And that was I would say, you want to track trends would be one thing. Even the CDC says they want to be able to track trends of different health issues, including abortion.
Well, and in all seriousness, even someone like a Planned Parenthood or just an abortion provider is going to want to show how many they do to get funds, just to be able to, be able to show what their needs are.
Right.
Or where they can improve.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing, if I'm pro-choice, is it gives us a window into the quality of care. If there are abortionists that are really bad at their job and are hurting women, you're going to find that out if all the complications are getting reported.
Right.
If there's been 3 or 4 problems with some abortionists in 1 year, there should be an inspection and
and because of the sensitivity
like
of the issue, because of the controversy with it, you're going to make sure you have all your P's and Q's in order.
Right. Well, last week there was a front page Chicago Tribune story. It was the story above the fold, page 1.
Wow.
And it's on their website, and I'm linking to it on the site. The name of the article is "State Abortion Records Full of Gaps," subtitled "Thousands of Procedures Not Reported to Health Department." I just want to emphasize, this is not a pro-life. This is not lifenews.com. This is the Chicago Tribune.
Which is very big and very well known. You heard of it? Just a little.
And Megan, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Twohay is what it looks like. I'm just probably not right, but that's how.
You got to do it
phonetically,
in a Chicago
that would be pretty much
accent.
It. I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know why you're saying anything then. There's some speculation. I've been talking to pro-life leaders in Illinois about why this story was happening. It's unusual for such a big paper to put such emphasis into an investigation like this. And we've got 2 ideas. I haven't had the chance to talk to Megan today. I wish I had been able to, because I've got questions I'd like to ask her. We think maybe the whole Dr. Gosnell story tipped her off. You had Gosnell, all these horrific problems happening. And maybe she was like, well, I want to find out what's going on in Illinois. there's also this story, and they quote a man, and he's the picture on this story,
right.
a gentleman named Maurice Stevenson, whose wife died of an abortion complication at a Planned Parenthood in Illinois. So I'm wondering...
And that wasn't reported?
It wasn't reported. And so, as far as I know, don't quote me, it goes too into detail. All I know is his wife died, and he was concerned about this story. He might be the one that came to Megan originally and said, my wife died, and then she got into researching. All I know is it's insane. This story, the more you learn about this story, it is insane.
Well, give us the facts.
The Illinois Department of Public Health must collect details about every abortion performed in the state, including whether the patient is injured or dies. Okay. So I want to make clear, an interesting thing I learned was I always had the idea, and it might be this is the way it happens in some states, but I always thought the abortion facility collects their stats throughout the year and then emails them or sends them or delivers them to the Department of Health or whatever.
Okay.
In Illinois, the requirement is that they collect their stats and have their stats ready, and then the state it goes in and collects them whenever.
Oh, so why doesn't the tax department do that? You know, the IRS can just come to your door and pick up your packet instead of you having to file.
Don't get ahead of me. That gets into a very interesting part of this story. So don't get ahead of me. I'm just trying to be clear. It sounds like that's supposed to be what the situation is. The only vague thing about this story still is exactly, does the law require that the state collect those stats every year, or is it a suggestion kind of a thing? That's what still, I've been looking through laws and this stuff all day, and nobody's able to figure, because the Illinois abortion laws are so screwed up. They can't pass pro-life laws, almost. They've just spent 10 years defending parental notification. They don't have, almost all the abortion regulations got struck down a long time ago, except basic requirement of stats. So here's what we know. Okay. Chicago Tribune found that state regulators have documented between 7,000 and 17,000 fewer abortions a year than the Alan Guttmacher Institute has been finding.
Wow.
So Guttmacher, just so everyone understands, Guttmacher Institute, which is the research arm of Planned Parenthood. Correct. Alan Guttmacher, former president of Planned Parenthood, very, very pro-choice. They have the research arm, not just on abortion, but several other things too, and they advocate for things. They get abortion stats straight from the clinics, and they do a lot of follow-up. Generally, we think those stats are going to be more accurate than State Department stats, because sometimes State Departments don't get everything.
And it's technically it's internal for them, so it's them. It's not passing through multiple hands. It's not it's not.
And federally, like I saw one time, there was a large, I'm not going to say who it was, but a large Christian organization, family type organization, when they went to quote how many abortions happen a year, they quoted the CDC's number and not Guttmacher numbers, which is I think a poor choice, because the CDC does not get stats from 3 states, including California.
Yeah, there's a few.
Which does like 300,000 abortions a year or something like that, is what I hear. Like about 25%. So it's just like, obviously those numbers are not going to be right. So Guttmacher, we've got the Guttmacher numbers, and then you're going to have the Illinois State Department numbers. Right. And the State Department numbers are not the same, and not the same by 7 to 17,000.
Now, how many abortions occur?
55,000.
Wow, you answered the question before I got it out of my mouth. A year in Illinois. So
we're talking like...
As of in 2008, it was 55,000.
We're talking like 12 to 30, 40% were not reported.
That the State Department didn't have.
7,000 were not reported out of 55,000. That's incredible.
To the state. The reporting is the only tool Illinois authorities have to monitor some abortion providers, yet regulators may be allowing doctors and clinics to operate off the books. I'm quoting from the Chicago Tribune.
Wow.
Regulators collect reports from 26 providers, but Guttmacher has identified 37 providers doing business in the state.
So there's 9 providers.
11.
Or 11. Sorry, my math is terrible.
I was going to ask, because I didn't.
11 providers that the State Department apparently is not even aware of. Might be an issue. Also, and this is where it gets really ugly, also unknown to officials are the types of abortion-related problems experienced by women. Nearly 4,000 reports of abortion complications involving Illinois residents in 2009 were missing the required description. In other words, here's what it seems like that means. 4,000 clinics had in their stats that there was a complication. No, I'm sorry, not 4,000 clinics. Out of the 55,000 abortions, there were 4,000 complications, but the field where they would say what complication or what happened was left blank.
Oh, so we don't know if it's a minor scratch or they died.
Right. Could I'm not certainly.
Is that a mandatory part of their form that they're supposed to fill out?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, otherwise, what's the point? Because they're required to get, the complications, what's going on. That's what they're supposed to get, and it's left blank. Now, sure, there's no way there's 4,000 women that died from.
Correct.
No one's saying that.
But we don't know how many did die.
But you have no idea. Yeah, exactly. And this is where Maurice Stevenson comes in. He says it's outrageous. His wife died in 2002 from an infection following an abortion at Planned Parenthood in Chicago. He said these procedures, complications, and deaths should be public record. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I mean, if think about it, even if you're pro-choice, right. Even if this is like a knee replacement surgery, if my husband died from a knee replacement surgery because of an infection and nobody reported that,
right?
That's outrageous. How do we know that same infection is not going to affect 5 more people because nobody was notified and no change was made?
Right.
So even regardless of whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, we should all be on the same side here.
This is something, and I want to talk toward the end of the episode. How can pro-lifers use it, or how should pro-lifers use this information, and what should pro-choicers be thinking about in regards to this? And common ground is one of those things I'm going to get to. The story actually gets worse. A review of malpractice cases. A review of malpractice cases revealed other abortion-related complications in Illinois with no way of knowing whether they were reported to the state or not. So there could be more than 4,000. We don't know.
There's no record.
Because nobody reports.
For example, in 2002, after an area woman's uterus was torn in an abortion, she began hemorrhaging, went into cardiac shock, and was hospitalized for 3 weeks. Several years later, a mother of 3 experienced seizure symptoms and slipped into a coma following her abortion at a city clinic. And in 2009, a teenage girl suffered respiratory and cardiac arrest and died immediately following her abortion in a northern suburb, according to court records. So one of the things that the author of the article did was find, with Freedom of Information searches, all of the lawsuits against abortion clinics, and found there were some deaths that had been in malpractice suits that were not being reported. And so it just gets in. I mean, can't we all agree this is really, really bad?
Right, but I mean, looking at this, we always say abortion hurts women.
Right.
We talk about it, and it's always dismissed and swept under the rug. Like, you have no proof. You have a couple stories of people who are depressed, or you have stories of people who tried to commit suicide. You don't really know if it's connected. Well, here's the Chicago Tribune, a reputable newspaper,
very reputable.
A front page story of investigative journalism showing everything we've been saying for years.
Right. And
this
far,
is just,
locally.
Yeah, this is just in Illinois. This is just Chicago. This is just ones that have come to light because they haven't been reporting 15-20% of their abortions.
Right.
And in those, they're not even specifying what's complications are with it, and just even in that small window of what they've been able to find, then this should slightly outrageous.
This should spur investigations in everybody else's home states.
Yeah.
You would, I mean, and at least Illinois. But so far, I mean, I talked to the director of Illinois Right to Life today, and I asked him, "Is this a huge story right now? Like Gosnell was all over the news, all across the country. Yeah. We have the Chicago Tribune story. Is this in
I haven't heard about
news? Is this what's going on? No, I mean, I know it certainly hasn't been national news.
Right.
Statewide, has there been anything else besides this one story? And he said, not really. There hasn't been, like the TV networks haven't picked it up. He said, as far as he knows, he's not seeing a lot of people talking about it yet. So it's like, why?
Okay, well then that with that question, why? And maybe this is something that we're going to come up with, but we have this big opportunity. We're always getting, we're always complaining that we aren't, when we have these big events, and like a big walk for life or anything like that, where or something traumatic like this, that should be notable, doesn't get the publicity. We have the Chicago Tribune, huge, one of probably the top 5 newspapers in America, is reporting this, yet it's not getting it. We should be up in arms, so to speak, about it. We should be able to rally some support due to this.
Yeah, I mean, this would be one of those things, and this is what the question that I've asked my pro-choice friends, and I'm going to advocate for pro-life for a second. I think this can be a conversation starter. I think one of the best ways that pro-lifers can use this story, obviously pro-lifers can do, we can write blog articles and we can talk about how horrible this is and we can do a podcast. I don't want to just talk about how horrible this is. I think, we can make that point. What should pro-lifers do with this? I think one of those things is to get into a conversation with pro-choicers. We talk, how do you talk about abortion when it's not, when there's not a Justice for All exhibit right there that you can, use to enter into conversation.
Did you hear about the Tribune article?
Exactly. And I posted on your Facebook. I posted to some of my pro-choice friends. I posted the article and I asked a couple of questions. Here's the questions I asked. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does this bother you? Like, does this bother you? And if it does, how much? And secondly, and here's what I want. This is where like I'm trying to put myself in the pro-choice shoes. If it bothers you, I asked. This is my follow-up question. If it bothers you, does it bother you enough that you would actually contact your legislators about it? Because I believe that there are at least some pro-choice people that feel very torn right now between a rock and a hard place. Because on one hand, the vast majority of pro-choice people I know are very concerned for the health and safety of women. So you got that.
But they're also concerned about the availability and protection of abortion, and that can try to override their concern for the safety of the women.
You read my mind. That's exactly, everyone was talking about access. Planned Parenthood has talked about it, and I didn't have a chance to grab the latest stats, but there's a lot of counties that don't have abortion clinics. And Planned Parenthood and the National Abortion Federation would say we should have a clinic at least one clinic in every county so that there's access everywhere, basically. Women shouldn't have to travel 3 or 4 counties to get an abortion. So they're already worried about this.
Right.
So are there some pro-choice people that are feeling torn between, well, gee, if I contact my legislators, maybe that clinic's going to get closed down and then we got even less access. I wonder if that's going on.
Yeah, what are you concerned with? Are you concerned with open access to abortion?
Which are you more concerned with?
Or are you concerned with women's safety? Because last time I checked, people are pro-choice because that's the best choice for the woman and her safety and health, and it's a decision between her and her doctor. And if you're going to take that position, then you're being completely hypocritical to not try to shut down these places that are putting a bad name on your good position.
Now I'm going to... Well, do you want to counter for the pro-choice person? Because I've got to counter for the pro-choice person.
I'm going to counter in that, okay, yes, this is a problem, but... I think it'd be foolish to say that a pro-choicer is going to pick up the phone and immediately try to close down an abortion clinic. Not because I think that they're not loving enough or anything like. I won't get into any type of attack to them personally, but just realistically, okay, that's a problem. Let's address that problem. We're not going to go trying to close down clinics.
Yeah, and then that's all my questions about. I mean, just to clarify, I'm not saying should pro-choice people be contacting the legislature trying to close down the abortion clinics. I'm just saying, should they be saying, hey, there's this weird lack of reporting going on. I'm concerned about the lack of the complications aren't being reported. That should be happening. Whatever. We're talking about that.
I mean, I am pro-life. If the pro-life movement, if pregnancy care centers started handing out something that was harming children or giving out, I mean, most don't give out medication. Say they were giving out a medication that caused women to have hemorrhaging. I would be furious.
We would be talking
about it.
And
I'd immediately contact everyone. Look what you're doing to our good cause. I mean, you would have a total righteous anger.
Okay.
And
I agree with that. But let's say, like with bombing of abortion clinics or something like that, are you then going to legislators about that, or are you then going to the clinics about that in that regard? And what I'm saying is I agree with kind of challenging the pro-choicer to see, kind of challenge how serious they are about protecting the woman. But kind of making that leap to them, are you going to contact your representative? It's kind of the wrong avenue for that. I think it should be, in regards to, addressing their stance of how we protect women. Maybe them personally, but trying to get them to maybe contact your representative is a little far-fetched.
Maybe a better approach, if we're talking to pro-choice people about this issue, instead of asking, what are you going to do about it? Or are you going to go to your legislator? What if you just simply ask them, you ask them, how much does it bother you?
Exactly. Are you okay
with it? And then, after you've asked them that first question that you had, Josh, what if you then ask them why? Why does it bother you that much? That
was my question. What I asked them is, because most people I know don't live in Illinois, I was saying, would this bother you enough that it would make you consider doing that, and why? One of my pro-choice friends, Brett, who at one point his Facebook profile picture was, I stand with Planned Parenthood. That was during the whole tax defunding debate. He said, this bothers me on between 1 and 10, on a 9. And yeah, I would contact my legislators because this is worthy enough of their attention. I mean, so some pro-choice were very, and then there were other pro-choice who were like, it's a 3 or 4. It's not too big of a deal. But I think it can at least be a good conversation starter where you can start, having a conversation about, what do you do with these when you've got conflicting. I mean, the pro-choice is going to say, look, maybe there's only a few women being hurt. It's not like all the women going through there are being hurt, and access is more important. You could actually have a debate.
Well, I think we could even, kind of like step past just using this to start conversation, but using this to try to make up some grounds in regards to like the funding of a Planned Parenthood or something in sort of a more legal battle in it because it is such a big issue. Right. Well, I agree. On a personal level, we are able to do something like that, like discuss. But you should look to get involved with Right to Life organizations or different organizations or even lobbyist groups or something like that to be like, hey, have you guys seen what's happened here?
Right.
This is strong evidence for our cause that they've been saying for so long doesn't happen. This isn't happening. Yeah. This is just in Illinois.
It's an opportunity that we should jump on, and we are jumping on. And so pro-choicers are right to be afraid that access is going to be limited because of this information, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. And frankly, I don't care if every pro-choicer knows it. I am out to limit access to abortions and end them entirely.
And it certainly becomes easier when you have really shoddy abortionists that are hurting a lot of women, and even every once in a while, clinics where women are dying. That's going to happen. I've heard Dr. Warren Hearn, one of the nation's leading abortionists. This is one of his things that he's always talking about. Is like we need to have abortions, but we need to have them safely, and this is probably. He's probably very, very frustrated right now. But here's one of the reasons that we ought to be concerned about this story. Remember the Gosnell story. I've got a portion of the grand jury report from the Gosnell story. I'm not going to get into all the horrible details, but one of the most interesting parts of this report was, how did this stay a secret?
Yeah. Right.
It was so insane what was going on, and the reason it stayed a secret is in the first 12 pages of the report. Read it. It wasn't reported not just by one, not just by two, not just by three, by at least 4 different entities that knew something was going on and didn't report it, and all for the same reason.
Right.
Because they were pro-choice.
Well, and I think that's one of the big things here is, kind of like the live action videos, is we're starting to see it's not just these isolated instances. You have it with this, you have it with Illinois, we're like, hey guys,
there's
this
a systemic problem.
Now, we don't now see, I wasn't even going to go as far as saying that. I don't know that the reason that the State Department isn't doing it is because of abortion. The State Department is defending themselves by saying we don't have enough money to go and collect the stats.
Okay, but I'm not saying the State Department. I'm saying just the fact that this has come to light.
You're saying dangerous abortion.
Yes, and that it's not known about.
Right. And that we know, at least in one horrific case, it was being covered up by, there was the Pennsylvania Department of Health in the case of Gosnell, then the Department of State, then the Department of Public Health, and then the National Abortion Federation all had people go into that clinic and know of at least some of the horrific conditions, knew of at least 1 or 2 cases of people dying in there, and all the other scams that Gosnell was doing, and didn't do anything because they were worried about abortion access. Right. And that seems like a terrible reason to not be talking about this stuff.
And here's the thing. We, as the pro-lifers, we're looking to end abortion completely.
Yep.
Now, the pro-choice position is safe, legal, maybe or maybe not rare, but definitely safe and legal.
Right.
So they're the ones bound by their position to make sure that this procedure is safe.
We should be able to find that common ground.
But what we're seeing is that they're not. We're not held to the standard of making sure it's safe. Right. We're held to the standard of trying to end it. So when we are looking to, and also to make it as rare as possible, we don't even have to make it accessible. That's not our position. So if our position is going out and closing down clinics because they're doing terrible things and exposing that they're not holding up their position, which is making it safe.
Right. One of the really scary things about this story, maybe one of the scariest quotes, I don't think they meant it for it to be this scary, but it's really sad. They actually, the gal interviewed Stanley Henshaw, who is one of the Guttmacher researchers. And so he asked him about this story. And he theorizes that it is the shoddiest operators who are not reporting the abortions they perform. Either they refuse to comply or are so off the radar they are unaware of the requirement. And he said, I think it's only a problem with the worst providers. Oh, good. So you're not getting reports from some people. Because we already know, like in this case, Planned Parenthood said, no, we do all the reports. Family Planning Associates said, we do all the reports, and everybody should. They kind of had to say that, but they said that.
They're kind of keeping themselves accountable.
So it's the worst of the worst.
That's exactly why you need reporting. Yeah. For any operation.
For the worst of the worst.
And inspections, too.
Obviously, the person who made the mistake is going to try to cover it up and isn't going to voluntarily give that information. They're going to lose their job.
Here's what pro-lifers should not do with this story. Okay. And I wrote about this with the Gosnell thing, and we can link to that article. Where I'm going to explain it more than I'm going to now. Don't make this your pro-life argument.
No.
We are not pro-life because Illinois doesn't have good abortion reporting.
And we're not pro-life because abortion is unsafe. We're pro-life because abortion kills human beings. That's what we need to make that distinction. But we're not riding on the safe card.
But that is definitely a way to start a conversation.
Exactly.
To springboard into that discussion.
And to springboard into legislation. Illinois absolutely needs to tighten up the laws both on reporting.
Right.
And also, they don't have any laws right now on inspections. They don't have to have inspections. There are abortion clinics in Illinois. I'm not kidding. We've got the Freedom of Information Act churches. They have literally not had a safety inspection in 15 years.
Wow.
15 years. Because they don't have any laws requiring them to do that.
Restaurants, all the time. And
it's not the clean restaurants that need to be inspected.
Yeah. Right. It's like, in Atlanta, we had on the radio. They actually had the guy come on the morning radio show to talk about some of the restaurants he would go in and what he would find. It was like the kitchen nightmares thing. It's just like...
It's only the worst of the worst restaurants that aren't getting inspected.
Bad. It's so bad.
It's also true.
I want to plug a website. It's technically live, but right now it's just there's only one page explaining what it's going to be. But if this is not a good argument for this website being available, I don't know what is. It's abortionsafety.com. And it's headed up by my friend Kelsey Hazard. She is working on this site, and they're going to be finding all the stories of abortionists that are hurting women and compile them onto one website, where then, even if the state is not getting the stories, you'll be able to have them on this one website, and women can see them, and hopefully, maybe if they see, I was going to go to this abortion clinic, and, he's, hurt 5 women, perforated the uteruses. Maybe I don't want to go.
Maybe I don't want to make that risk.
And maybe they'll think twice. I think the ideal thing would be they'd think twice. They'd go to a pregnancy care center and get counseling and choose not to have the abortion. Obviously, it's not the only thing we should be doing. But I told Kelsey, I sent her the thing on Facebook, was like, if this is not an argument for your website, I don't know what is. Illinois needs to tighten up their laws. This is something the pro-lifers ought to be talking about. Use this to talk to pro-choice people. Thanks a lot. Have a great week.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.